In connection with the attack on the United States, the Lord told his prophet there would be an attempt to overthrow the country by destroying the Constitution. Joseph Smith predicted that the time would come when the Constitution would hang, as it were, by a thread. And at that time, this people will step forth and save it from the threatened destruction. It is my conviction that the elders of Israel, widely spread over the nation, will, at that crucial time, successfully rally the righteous of our country and provide the necessary balance of strength to save the institutions of constitutional government. Now is the time for us to get ready.
Welcome to the Nauvoo Legion podcast.
Yeah, so this morning, you guys, I was actually sitting in a state conference, and, I remember last night I was driving home and I got the news about President Nelson, and then I go to state conference this morning, and what do you know, I get the news about Grand Blanc, Michigan, and it just seems like we've had one thing after another, right?
Yeah, it's, Minneapolis, Charlie Kirk being assassinated, and, it's definitely an assault on the Christian faith, an assault on Jesus Christ. And it's something we need to be vigilant and watch for. We need to keep our heads on swivels. And we also need to, look out for each other. Definitely reach out to, our brothers and sisters in our individual wards and our, also in our stakes to make sure they're doing well. Because I know, in times like these, things, especially after, something like this, unresolved feelings, not knowing how to deal with them, especially with, the little ones not being able to understand, it's very hard on people.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and it just seems like it's a continual one thing after another, right? One attack happens, and then we have another one, and then another one. So it's like this constant onslaught of news, and that's where, like you said, it really is a spiritual war, right? It's spiritual warfare. We fight not against we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the spiritual darkness of this world. And that's what we're really facing, because when these things happen, they don't just affect just you guys. It affects our entire church. And so it's an attack on our entire faith, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, so kind of going through the timeline, brother. So do you want to kind of, since you were there, you want to kind of walk us through? Obviously, we want to respect, the victims and the people who were really affected by this. But we just kind of want to hear from you, kind of from once you got to church, kind of how you're expecting it's a normal day, I imagine, and then all hell breaks loose.
Oh, yeah. And it was most certainly hell. So, we started, opening announcements, our opening hymn. We passed stake business, and then we had passed the sacrament. And after the bread and water was passed, the boys settled. And then we were starting our fasting testimonies today. And one of our counselors was up there. And then all of a sudden you hear a very loud, a boom, not like an explosion, but, something hitting something. And then the chairs up where the bishopric were, jolt up. And at first I thought it was maybe a gas line had ruptured and exploded. So, and that was about at 10:15. And then I was sitting with some of the elderly folks, and so I'm helping them get up. And I figure, get them to the closest exit. And then we get into the foyer, and you see this man coming around with a rifle. Then he raises it at the, it's called the high ready in military terms. It's when you have your rifle pointed at a target, and he starts shooting at us. So, I grab the people I'm with, I push them, tell them to run. and start telling other people to run, and we're running, and we're hearing gunfire. And we get into one of the main hallways, and I'm urging some of the families just to run to the woods and keep going, find some concealment, and don't get up for anything. Not until someone finds you. And so from like the back entrance of the chapel to where the wood line is, it's about I believe like around 150 yards. So we had to make our way across there, and then we all get in the woods in the brush, get down, and then you hear more gunfire, and you're hearing from like multiple weapon systems, like an AR, then pistols, and then the shooter was taken down. And so then we start collecting ourselves. We're looking for people. We're starting to take accountability to get a head count. And there was a great many people who had gotten the vehicles and they just left. And then I can't blame them on that. I'm a bachelor myself, and so I'm glad a lot of the people and their kids made it out. And but from what I understand, so the chapel had caught on fire, and from what I understand, before he had rammed it, he had threw in accelerant into, I believe, over by where the, goodness gracious, what's it called, where the Relief Society room is. Then they start breaking out windows, so the smoke can get out, and then the chapel really starts going up, and we collect ourselves at the pavilion, and we're taking accountability, seeing if anyone needs to be triaged, if there's any wounded, and and it was hell. This is what I can imagine. I don't have children of my own. I have been blessed with that, but I seen the way like mothers and fathers, some looking for their children, looking for their spouse, and what the anguish and the look on some of the faces of, like, the only way I can explain it is a brokenness. But
Yeah.
I think
I can only imagine, it's kind of surreal because unless you've experienced like I've never experienced something like that, right? And unless you have, only then can you really see it. And my heart goes out to those people, and we really need to pray for them right now. And yeah, that's what I'd read, is that when kind of going through the timeline again, is that he rammed his car into the church building first, then he gets out, pours gasoline on the building, correct? And then
I believe it was more akin to like a Molotov cocktail.
okay.
There was, after the fact, there was EOD there. He apparently had one or multiple improvised explosive devices that they had believed were had EOD there. But there was accelerants used, but it was weird, like seeing the man in looking through the foyer. It looked like he was dressed in a type of way to like distinguish himself, not to like as something weird or but it looked like he was in a way to like distinguish himself in a way that was like uniform-esque.
Yeah. Like not like like something to distinguish himself from the congregation. And yeah.
Look like us.
Yeah. So what I read is, so his name, he was an Iraq war veteran from what I read, 40 years old, Jacob Sanford, and he served, from what I read, he served from 2004 to 2008 in the Marine Corps. And he had a son, he has a family.
Mhm.
And so it's hard to, right now it's really early, so it's really hard to say, right? Like what motives. And I think that's something in the coming days that we're going to find out.
Oh,
At the end of the day, it's all evil and it's all perpetrated by Satan, really, when you think about it, is by Satan getting the hearts of men. Because there literally has to be an evil power that takes over somebody for them to go into a church, or in Minneapolis to go into a school and to kill innocents and to specifically target Christians.
yeah. Like, I'm not for sure if like the motive, I can't say, and I don't know why we had been chosen, but because there's other churches around. There's like, I think, like between his house and our chapel, there's like 150 churches. It's the Midwest, so
Yeah.
there's a church every almost 3 square miles, and I am really anticipating like finding out more information on like the motive, but it seemed there to be a type of convenience with everything, with like the timing in which it happened. He knew the times that the church operations, and like to his house or his parents' house or wherever his dwelling was. There was a ward in the city of Flint that would have been closer.
Hmm.
And so it's odd, but odd things sometimes. Uh, we see, um, I can't think of the word right now. Like, we'll see kind of circumstances that are random in a certain aspect, but just because it happens to uh, one person, it may not be. And most likely that the person had never met any one of us before, and it could have been just something that's like pick a brand of church and then throw a dart at a board and
Yeah.
just goes that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been. I've heard some people say, and some people in the comments right now are saying that he'd read a lot of, he thought LDS were like the Antichrist, and that we're like horrible people and we're not Christians, and I don't know if that's the case yet, so we'll have to see. That
No,
might be the case, but I don't know yet. I've from what I had, right, like this happened today, and so we're kind of still waiting for a lot of information to come out. If that is the case, man, that's horrifying to understand that someone would read anti-literature about our church and then be, for whatever reason, partially it had to be, I imagine, because of he served PTSD, other things that caused him. Obviously, you
yeah,
can't be mental if you go up and shoot innocent people in a church. You're not mentally right. It doesn't matter what anybody says. You're not all there.
an unknown, like an unknown undiagnosed mental illness.
Yeah,
Also, because like I know traumatic brain injuries can have alterations in your brain chemistry, so that could be something that happened in which earlier on in his life while he was deployed in Iraq, he could have gotten a head injury that had set him on a course that he should not have been on. You know,
yeah,
but what I could say for him, like as Christians, we're one of the things we are called to do is forgive. You look in the Lord's Prayer, and, um, forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors. And I know me personally, like I'm choosing to forgive him, and I've been praying for him because I know he's standing at a seat of judgment, and I'm praying for his family. Yeah, I can't understand what his parents are having to deal with, his child.
yeah,
Like they may have to. suddenly move across the country to a town and restart their lives because of this horrendous act their son did.
Hmm. Yeah. Not only it is sad because not only did we're sad for everyone because of the families in your congregation that are now suffering because of this. So there was two confirmed people who died. Is that correct?
Well, it was
And
really,
9 injured.
I looked, so there's a news publication in Michigan called MLive. And if you look on MLive, it's what I saw that they had confirmed 5 the last time I checked. But I mean, that's still maybe up for debate. Maybe like a reporter heard something and they had just went with it. But
Someone in the comments just said 4 deaths confirmed now. So, wow, that's man, that's really it's heartbreaking because it feels strange right now. I'm talking to you, and I'm probably over 1,000 miles from you, and yet it's like we're present,
yeah,
And
and what
so,
really you have to do is be present in the spirit of Jesus Christ with each other.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
that,
and so I feel like this is a time right now where as Latter-day Saints, but in general as Christians, we need to come together. We need to be united. And Satan, he does everything to divide us. He does everything and that's how we have gotten to this point in this country where these shootings and these things are normal, is because Satan, this is the great day of his power. He is enraging in the hearts of the children of men and leading them to anger and to violence and and we need to unite. We need to build Zion if we want to be able to have a country that continues. Then we need to become united again. And I really hope that other Christians who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, instead of discriminating and persecuting us, can extend their hands out, because despite our unique beliefs, we really believe 90% of the what we're putting those aside, we really believe in the same core principles and values, you know?
almost certainly. Within the whole kingdom of Christendom, its sole basis is the birth, the crucifixion, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And that's really what I hope the country can really focus on at this time is seeing that and reading that and not letting what happened today and um, 2 weeks ago and last month just go to waste. Let them see that, come to Jesus Christ. Just grab a hold of him and never let him loose. To really, live their lives how we should live as Christians and especially as Americans. We have to really look out for each other now because like our local law enforcement, they were phenomenal. They were definitely angels today with how their response time, how they treated us, how they treated the families and the children. They treated us with love and dignity. And the FBI, they were wonderful. They had people there from the Department of Justice that were helping out. They were doing all great things. And I'm hoping that their eyes are opened to Jesus Christ and they see him and grab a hold of him.
Hmm.
Because I mean, it's, I know like atheism has really struck hold in this country over the past, say, 25 years. And, there is no redo buttons. Like, there's like, I lost friends in Iraq, um, and they'll never come back. They're they're gone in the hereafter in the spirit world. And it I'd say is never underestimate the hole that's left when someone you love is gone. So I remember my first time in Iraq, my friend Emmanuel, we were on a thing called Task Force Hammer, and we were getting rid of the unexploded ordnance in southwestern Iraq, and he had hit an IED, and but so I understand trauma and heartbreak, and sometimes heartbreak brings us to Christ because I was a non-believer. I came to the church um, almost 5 years ago. It'll be 5 years this December of my baptism.
Okay, so you're a convert. You didn't grow up in the church, is that right?
Yeah, I'm a convert. Yeah,
Okay.
I came to the church after my mother passed because she had passed when the lockdown was happening. She had an underlying illness, then she had gotten COVID, and then she was in quarantine, and just how that you know broke apart her greater family, and then the anguish that my father was dealing with, in the hole that was in my life that couldn't be filled with anything. And so I decided to fill it with Christ. And I had made the decision, I had never met any missionaries before I came to the church. I just was curious because it was right after the time I had finished grad school. So I'm like, well, I'll just go to the website. Started reading, then I found resources on YouTube and started watching. Then I just went one day and just kept going. Then started the baptism process, was baptized, and I my Melchizedek priesthood, and I can never see myself leaving. It's especially after today. It's only strengthened my testimony and my belief in Jesus Christ, our prophet, and the testimony of Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
And I'll never let that go or deny that.
Yeah, it makes me man, it's a lot to it made me think of this verse in Doctrine and Covenants 98:13, and whoso layeth down his life in my cause for my name's sake shall find it again, even life eternal. 14. Therefore be not afraid of your enemies, for I have decreed in my heart, saith the Lord, that I will prove you in all things, whether you will abide in my covenant even unto death, that you may be found worthy. And then 15, for if you will not abide in my covenant, you're not worthy of me. 16, therefore renounce war and proclaim peace and seek diligently to turn the hearts of the children to their fathers and the hearts of the fathers to the children. So yeah, that verse really struck me, because those people in our congregation today, they laid down their life for Christ, right? And you know, Christ said, if they hate you, they remember that they hated me first.
Yep.
And so I'm hoping that this will have that all of us as Latter-day Saints and as Christians in the United States can use these horrible things that are happening, rather we can use them in a good way so that
Yep.
to heal us, because our country is broken, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
only thing that can really save us is Christ. After Charlie Kirk died, I didn't agree with everything the dude said, but it deeply affected me, and
Yeah.
it deeply affected this country, and we all felt it. And that's because on a deeper level, he was our brother in Christ, more than a political advocate. The thing that I respected about him most was that he went to college campuses and he preached Jesus
Proclaim the
Christ.
name of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And so that is what we need more of in dialogue, and less of this destructive,
The divisive conversation.
divisive conversations. You're left, you're right, that's what they want,
Yep.
is us divided. But if we can become united right now, I think that we can save this country, and we can. And but really, again, it goes back to that foundation of Christ. He's the author of freedom. The only way we're going to preserve our freedom is if we continue and return to him.
Oh yeah.
And then, so yeah, going back to, I guess, kind of, I want to ask you a little bit more about, since you were there and you experienced this horrific event, what was it like? And obviously, we were not gonna say any names because we want to respect the privacy
Oh,
of the board members, right?
oh yeah.
But what was it? What was it like seeing their reaction of, and how did that affect them?
Oh, it was terrible for them. Um, because there was, veterans there like myself, but there's, people, many have never fired a gun. Some, I assume, have never even heard a gun fire. Um, there was uh, terror. You could see like the terror in their eyes, confusion. Families separated because a lot of people were just going their own ways. Um, but I would say terror and confusion and an uncertainty, and it's something that they never felt before. Because like for me, like in the Marines, like when I first got to Iraq, a lot of it was IEDs. So you had to like look out for IEDs. Because I went in after Phantom Fury, the big battle in Fallujah. I was
Mhm.
when that happened, but our thing was dealing with IEDs, and it's basically like you have no choice. You have to follow orders, and so you just have to just understand. You have to learn to accept it. And so for me, it's just having to like accept I was in a terrible situation. But if I can maybe do some good and help, at least lead one person away from it, then I've done good. And I'd like to think I'd done good today. Uh, Wiped away many tears on children, hugs and kisses. But that's the thing that'll stick with me is, the the you know the terror in the children's eyes and the
Mhm.
sadness and grief and confusion is very, for me, it was very troubling. Just because, I know if I had children, I would never want them to be in a situation like that. I would do whatever I could. But, the kids are safe.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And did you get to, but before you left the situation, um, did were there any families who had lost children, or a family member that you were able to talk to, or kind of how did
feel like
that
we're
go
still
down?
from their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there was full accountability taken. There was a bunch of kids that had went to someone's house, and then like a lot of the kids, they went in the woods, and then we had collected everyone except for, you know, but yeah, like the
So
kids
when
don't.
the yeah, yeah. So when like so when the police arrived and then later the FBI arrived, right? They took like they took like count of everybody. Yeah, correct.
They got
Yeah,
like family accountability, individual accountability, and like the bishopric, they were phenomenal. And
yeah,
the leadership of our bishop, we definitely saw this through, and he's a phenomenal man, and I'm glad he's my bishop. And I'm prayed for him today, his family. I'll be praying for them tonight, and all of our congregation and all the saints out there. Um,
yeah. I heard that one of the, and again, I don't want to use names or anything, but I heard that someone in the congregation was prepared and was able to to meet the threat and
yeah,
to fire back. Is that correct?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, like he was
Okay.
prepared, but he didn't. I don't believe he fired around. I can't say whether he did or not, just because
Okay.
I'm not for sure. That hasn't been released.
Okay, that kind of everything at that point, but when you were there, everything at that point, everybody kind of scattered
Yeah,
and
it was a
yeah, okay.
it was a complete you know what show.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then I did have another question for you. So considering now you've lived through some crazy things in Iraq and then unfortunately coming here at home. Um I think that, as Latter-day Saints, our prophet, he Joseph Smith, right? He before he died, right, he started
The Legion.
the Legion of Nauvoo. He to protect the saints because their rights were under persecution and constantly under attack. And before he was killed in Carthage, and I've been to the jail and I've seen the bullet hole in the door.
Hmm.
He fired around back,
Yep.
right? And so we are commanded, of course, never to just commit acts of violence and just go after our enemies. But when we're attacked, we should defend ourselves. And so, considering the events of today, how do you think the brethren of the church should be prepared in the future to be able, so that if God forbid more things like this happen, how can we be prepared to meet that threat?
What I would like to see is the men and women they take because in Michigan we have what's called a CPL, concealed pistol license, and I would like to see uh, many of them go out and take that course and obviously you want them to pass it. Research, firearms, find something that they're comfortable with. Definitely, train and familiarize themselves if they make that decision. Definitely to train, and definitely for all saints out there to definitely look into their state's laws, and if their state allows them to have a concealed pistol license, I would definitely urge them to go through the application process, take the class, and definitely if I'm hoping bishoprics, countrywide will address certain members in the congregation, and maybe make um, perhaps designated sentries, men that they trust. And in the Marine Corps, we call them sentries or also like guardian angels. And so, especially times where there may be, a, when everyone's together and, there's no presence in the hallways or in the doorways, because I know many of the chapels, I believe they all lock their doors during sacrament and just for safety precautions. And at least I hope the rest of them do. I hope that they can create action plans where they can at least help make themselves, we call it a hard target. So you have soft targets and hard targets. So like a hard target would be like, where they'd be seen as a major obstacle. So I'm hoping, and I want the LDS Church to remain welcoming, and for investigators, people that are curious, to come into the fold, come to Christ, and be our brother or sister in Christ. But I also want an urge for safety,
Yeah, yeah. I
and
think we need to have some brethren in every congregation that are the ones that are prepared to, God forbid, meet that threat, that are concealed, that are, carrying, because unfortunately that's the reality we live in now, is that we need brethren that are trained. And, not just having, your concealed carry, but consistently going to the range and doing and getting more training than just that, but taking different classes. And so I hope this is something that will wake us up and again unite us and help, and then that we'll be more prepared. You know, um, I always think of that with our prophet. He was ready. We have to be the warrior in the garden, right?
yep,
We're never looking for the fight, but when it's there, we're
we
ready
have
to meet it and we're ready to fire back because And so, that's kind of why my page, I started the Nauvoo Legion of Nauvoo, right? Is because to me it constantly reminds me of that creed, that we have to be the warrior in the garden, that we have to be ready to meet the threat but never seeking it out.
Yep. And like people they don't have to drop, like on a rifle or pistol, they don't have to drop serious coin or anything. They don't have to like have like a recce set up, or like buy an ACOG, or just like something simple that they can be
Mhm.
efficient with and that they're comfortable with will be more than perfect. Because I mean, like a lot of engagements, they're in a close distance, so it's not like you really have to engage a target like 1 to 300 yards away. So it's
Right. It's going to be mostly close range and things like that. And I train a lot of martial arts, so in that aspect, I feel like I'm prepared. But this has woken me up to that I need to be more prepared to. I gotta better my aim.
yeah,
I gotta tighten my aim up. I gotta also, I need to learn some from, I never served, so I need to learn some from some of the veterans and from their experience and just be prepared. Um, and that really has been my goal in starting this page is to be prepared in many ways to be able to defend our constitutional rights, and whenever they're under threat, like with COVID, when they closed down our churches in California and they didn't allow us to peaceably assemble. They took away the First Amendment.
so
you know
they decided to violate the Constitution because they were scared.
yeah.
You see that, then you could think into the future, into a future hypothetical event, where if something terrible happens like today, but at a mass scale, like how will leaders react? And if we look at COVID, it probably won't be good. It won't be diligent. They won't be done with the best of intentions. Like it's happened many times in history.
Yeah, and they always use something to justify it,
Yep.
whatever it is. you know And I always remember this verse in Doctrine and Covenants 101:80. It says, "And for this purpose have I established the constitution of this land by the hands of wise men, whom I raised up unto this very purpose, and redeemed the land by the shedding of blood." And so, as far as I know, Latter-day Saints are the only ones who have actual scripture
Hmm.
that confirms that the Constitution of the United States was inspired by God. And so, as our liberties are constantly under threat, we need to be able to combat that in a multitude of ways, especially as men of the priesthood. We have to combat that in our homes. We have to teach our children. And then again, we have to be ready to, God forbid, meet that force.
Yep.
So, again, that's my hope with my social media presence, is to unite the brethren more. And I appreciate you sharing your experience, and you know it's great to be able to
Yeah,
talk
Jeff,
with you. So
I appreciate you having me.
yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point, is for me with this page now. I think and going forward, is to just be able to echo the voice of the people that need to be heard. And today that was you. So thank you for coming
Yeah.
on, Jason, and sharing your testimony. It's really awesome hearing your experience, how you were a convert.
Well, I felt so oppressed, because I don't have a lot of my own. I don't have a lot of family left. Besides, like, like my father, my brother, my dog, my dear friends. But all the others is, my church family, and I love them with all my heart, and I want the very best for them. I want them to feel safe, in their homes, in public, and especially in church while they worship God and Jesus Christ. And it really hurts to know that, like, there's that sanctity was stolen from them, something that no one had the right to take from them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I'll be praying. May even do a little fast this week
Sure.
for everybody. I think that would be good. And yeah, so everybody that's watching, thank you for joining us. Thank Brother Jason here for coming on and sharing his experience, having been there, having been a witness. Um, I think his witness today, I hope, can help some people to understand that despite these calamities, Christ is with us,
Sure.
and we need to, even, I don't think none of this is a coincidence. The fact that Charlie Kirk was assassinated in Utah, which is, kind of the heart of the church,
Yeah.
you could say.
And this
That wasn't
conversation.
a, yeah, exactly. Well, no, it wasn't a coincidence. That was secret combinations. That was evil showing its power.
Oh yeah.
And then and then President Nelson passes. I think that seals his testimony that we need to be peacemakers, but we also need to be prepared to meet evil.
Yes.
And so today was a reminder of that. As brethren, we need to, you know, be able to meet that force so that when the police arrive, if that's, God forbid, any other event like that happens, we've already neutralized the threat.
And like something in a terrible event, what really helps people is, doing your best to remain calm,
Mhm.
volunteer to help, if someone needs something, be the first one to jump in to volunteer. Holding someone's hand, giving them like a hug and a kiss to someone who's just gone through a terrible event, and assuring them that everything will be okay and that you're there for them. It means more than the world, and it's there in those little things that will really make the difference and will keep them, holding that iron rod that they were already holding on to, but make them hold on to it tighter, and hopefully to strengthen their testimony that, they're not going through this life alone. While they are walking with Jesus Christ, they're also walking on that same path with their Christian brothers and sisters. And they'll do what they must to help them, protect them, and love them. And that's
Mhm.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, thank you again for coming on, Jason. And yeah, I'll be posting this to YouTube so everybody else who wasn't able to join can be able to see. And yeah, we'll be in contact. So thanks again, and thank you for everybody else who stayed all the way through and
Thank you.
listened. I hope you guys were able to gain a little, to feel the spirit and know that God is with us despite all of these tragedies. So until next time at Nauvoo Legion,
Take it easy, Legion.
we'll see ya.
Bye bye.
Bye.